were going to be talking all about the elections, who we're voting for, who we're definitely not voting for. And yeah, basically just around DA, EFF. Who do you think is going to win, I guess?
ANC.
Yeah.
Like same percentage of votes, or?
I think ANC is going to do exceedingly well in this election, probably like 2/3 majority, around 60%.
60.
Around there, even with the minority part, I think it's going to do exceedingly well if you're looking at the campaign trail of what they've been doing.
Do you think the youth are voting for the ANC or for the EFF?
I think they're not voting.
You think they're not voting? Really?
Yeah,
they're not voting.
Okay.
I think it's also the influence of a lot of Western media and ideals that they're not engaging what's happening in their country.
Which ideals?
Western media talk about things like your online platforms. That's the main source of news. So the ability to research and critically think, it's a bit going down. Even now, there's some academics are arguing that the student intakes that they're absorbing now into the system, they're not really as strong academically because their level of reading is not as thorough, because if you read tweets and you rely on rumor, you don't really engage.
That's actually interesting.
You're not as versed as people who actually have to go to a library and read a whole book.
You don't agree?
I completely disagree. I feel like the education, in that sense, the education system failed them, and there's basically a reason why these students are not able to carry out the same level of performance as students from private schools, and that reason is basically that the education system in rural areas, the education system in townships is not the same as the education system in private schools or even in suburbs. So if, for example, Queens, it's half private, half governmental, or I don't know how to describe it, you're not going to get the same level of education as, for example, I'm from Innerdale. Innerdale, there's a high school called Tech. Those students are not going to have the same level of education or ability or performance level as the students in Queens.
Do you think the ANC is intentionally keeping the youth kind of uneducated? What do you think?
I think I disagree with what you're saying, because I went to a rural school, man, in the northwest, and I know people who like critically think and they qualify to come here.
What is critical thinking, though?
That is weird.
Like independent thinking, man, to be able to analyze text, right? You decipher the meaning.
So if I analyze the text of like the people's manifestos and I decide not to vote, is that critical thinking?
You can see through people's agendas, man. Like he said about Western, media ideals, right? They're bombarding us with, these negative images about Africa, even now, especially about our leaders. That you can see someone's voice, a journalist's voice. So the majority of young people, like he said, they rely on tweets, the hashtags, so.
But what's wrong with that? What's wrong with relying on? Relying on social media for information?
Like for me, like it's
unthorough. It's because there's people who actually go to school to become journalists and research and develop news. There's a system of doing it, and social media just cuts that.
What do we like about the different parties? Like, what are the things that appeal to us and don't appeal to us about the different?
I don't think I like.
Anything that appeals to us?
I mean,
for me, I don't think I like DA. I don't think it appeals to me.
What about like their whole?
At least EFF, because ANC gave birth to EFF.
Wouldn't you just say that Lucy is just a blackface for the party? I'm sorry to throw that out there, but like it feels like he's just a puppet being used by the non-black.
But people would say the same thing about Cyril, though, that he's a puppet being used by farmers, Afrikaans farmers, and all of that stuff. Since he decided to forego one of
different.
A different kind of puppet.
Yeah, because no, it's not a puppet. Because you have to study what the man did, man. Like if you study, his contribution earlier on, even when Mandela was there, he went to school. He worked hard for. Like he said,
yeah, it's true. He worked hard.
And the fact that he wrote the Constitution, man, was one of the people
started in the trade unions, but he also sold out.
How?
Like, with Marikana.
He started in the trade unions,
for it.
and he was part of I think it was the 1987. There was a big trade union strike at some point, and he was part of that, and he pioneered that. But if you think about the fact that he's a shareholder in Lonmin, that's the company, in Lonmin, and he actually called for the police to intervene. Do you understand?
Okay.
That, and people lost their lives, and they were basically fighting for the same things that he was fighting for in 1987, but because it didn't benefit him at the time, they lost their lives.
I think it's propaganda media too, and it's not. We will not apply our minds if we say that the Cyril issue it links to Lonmin, because if you look at the Lonmin structure, he's not a majority shareholder of Lonmin. It's not his company, right? He's just part of the directors of the thing. And the Lonmin issue has been happening for years, over hundreds of years. That company has been operating like that, underpaying miners, and even other mining companies has been doing that. And these companies, let's look at the real owners, let's look at where it comes from. Lonmin is a London-based company. Therefore, the Marikana issue is not linked to Cyril, it's linked to the London-based company.
No,
but he's also,
exactly.
like, you're just absolving him right now.
Exactly, I was about to say, doesn't that just make it, I don't know, it makes him get away with it because he is in government. He knows that these people are going through this because he was part of a trade union. Shouldn't he have fought as a shareholder for the miners to get better pay?
But how can you fight? The thing is,
and as the minister,
does it make you not want to vote for
you can't fight. It's difficult to fight against the capitalist system. No one can prove empirically evidence that he was against miners getting paid what's due to them. Maybe there's been previous board he's been raising that and he's been outnumbered over the years.
Does it make you not want to vote for the ANC?
Nah, I wouldn't say so necessarily. I think just for me personally, I'm registered, so I still haven't decided if I want to vote. And I think the reason is because there's no like party that I feel like I want to back. And for like,
what do you mean, like in what way?
So I think like with ANC, like my whole family is like historically been an ANC supported family, but I've never felt pressured by my family to vote for ANC, which is quite nice. So I've done like my own like looking and thinking and stuff, and I've never like looked at ANC as like my party as much as people did die for my right to vote like early on, and I do feel very grateful, but I don't think it's a crutch now that I must carry to. I think it's still my right to vote, like regardless if I want to or not. And just obviously the well-publicized corruption and all that kind of stuff, which is always going to be linked to like ANC or the government or the majority government. That still doesn't necessarily make me think that I don't want to vote for ANC, but it doesn't make me want to vote for DA. But because I live in an area where it's very DA dominant, I work with people who literally they'll say this. I won't use names, but they'll say, "Who should you vote for?" 2 letters, DA. That's all they say to me, like all the time. And I'm not going to vote for DA for that reason, quite frankly. And there's like other reasons why. I have a friend, and not to like oust anyone, but like I have a friend who does digital marketing in corporates and stuff, and DA was one of their clients. And this is just for my area specifically, which is a very white neighborhood. And the brief that they were given was no black people and white people of a certain age. That was legitimately the brief.
Sure.
That was a DA client. And I always had issues with DA, but then that was like the last straw for me. So that's why I'll never vote for the DA, just for that reason. And I know South Africa is a very big country, and where I live is very small.
I think a lot of people like who live in Cape Town or lived in Cape Town and now live in Joburg are like, oh my god, like the DA in terms of dealing with black people. And like I think if you're white, you should vote for the DA because listen, they're out here for white interests. That's honestly, it's just the truth.
It's just the black face.
That was the brief.
Freedom. Honestly speaking, like when you look at the posters in different areas, like the DA posters in different areas, I'm shocked. I'm like, this is definitely targeting white people. But I remember like when I was going to vote, registering to vote for the first time, and you know, like they have a list of where you live, like where the different places you live, like based on where you should go and register. And I went up to the DA place and I was like, okay, I'm registering to vote. And the guy was like, do you live in this area though? And I was like, yeah. And then he's like, okay, what area is it? And then I wrote it down. And then he like looked through the list and he's like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, you're in the right place. I'm like, of course I'm in the right place. But literally after that, I was like, I was not even interested in the pamphlet. I'm like, don't touch me. You know, don't even, come close to me. But what do you guys think about, for example, the EFF and Julius's drive?
I think it's a bit of a problematic organization because its weakness, it might propose good policies and everything, but its weakness is that how it operates, that it operates it's operated centered around an individual in terms of Julius Malema. Hypothetically speaking, if Julius Malema were to drop dead tomorrow, would the EFF still stand? You see, and that's a problem. You can't run an organization like that. Unlike the ANC is not a personality cult. Anyone can be removed and reshuffled. It has broad members of different types of levels of thinking.
But don't you think the ANC also started as a personality cult?
No.
So like around.
It was like everyone, like even the kings, the chiefs, like everyone.
It started in 1912. So
yeah, I know, but I'm saying like in 1994, since we're talking about the elections and the ANC being elected into power. I mean, I think a lot of people voted for the ANC really around Madiba's.
No, not really, because this personality, this other strong person, there was like O.R. Tambo, to show the magnitude, because before Nelson Mandela was an O.R. Tambo, people loved him more. He dropped dead in 93. He was probably was going to be the first democratic president, but he dropped dead. So Mandela came through. There was Chris Hani, one of the most, he was the second most popular person to Mandela.
Wasn't he supposed to?
Yes.
In fact, be
the deputy president. Yeah, he dropped dead. He was able to replace by the mere fact that even till tomorrow he can drop dead, the ANC will still run as per normal.
So if Cyril drops dead tomorrow, who's taking over the ANC?
It has its own processes.
It's a bit harsh.
No, but like, who would we vote for? Like,
I think it would be time to the deputy president would be GT. Because he's the deputy president, and then maybe they'll have a special NEC meeting.
So you're saying that EFF isn't viable because of the structures?
Yes, we only know who's the secretary of the EFF. Exactly. Who's the secretary of the ANC? Ace. Who's the deputy president? People know that. It's members. Who's the national chairperson? Okay, people know. In EFF,
but also because they're
people
the political party.
People can't name 5 members of it's hard to name 5 members of the EFF. It's really a big organization, and it's very problematic, because then you're telling me a whole organization relies on those 5 minds.
Do you also think that the EFF is problematic?
Only in the way that I feel like they're more violent, more rebellious. Yes, I get that the structuring of the EFF is problematic, and also I don't want to vote for them based on the fact that what Julius is saying cannot be implemented at this time. Land. The land is the biggest topic of all 3 parties. They're saying that they want to give back the land. But if you were to go and ask them, I feel that if I was to go to Malema and ask him, okay, you are speaking about land. You are telling me I can get back land today if I vote for you. How are you going to take land back from the majority owners of the land, which are corporations, foreign corporations, more than the Afrikaner farmers? The corporations are the main owners of this land. I believe they might own 70% of the land. I might be incorrect. How are you going to take that land from them and give it to me, and then expect them to stay in South Africa and continually invest in us and have that not affect our economy? How am I going to vote for somebody who's going to basically destroy our economy?
What about Black First Land First?
voting for Black First Land First. Yeah.
They cannot. I feel like all of these parties, including the ANC.
I don't know if they're a party, because I think Andile just says a lot of controversial things.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Yeah, it's also the thing. You can't have an organization that's based on one person. Of course, I believe we will get a seat in parliament. He's a necessary voice, of course. There's something that he says that speaks a lot of sense. But his ability to deliver and implement it is also questionable. Because I might be able to speak a lot of sense and say the right thing, but the ability to deliver, that's where the question of the land becomes very technical when it comes to the ANC and EFF. EFF proposes, yes, they want the land, ANC equally so, but the thing is, how are they going to be able to implement it?
Do you think
ANC has a better way of being able to systematically implement it rather than the EFF?
Do you think that the ANC using the land card, do you think it's just an electioneering thing? I mean, do you think something is actually going to happen once they're voted for?
No.
I think it.
Lucky, what do you think?
I think so, because but it has been part of the ANC manifesto. How do we centralize the economy? How do we, emancipate people, at the bottom? So I think like every, elections, every party must have its own, manifesto to appeal to, because of you need voters, right? You need people to.
But don't you think there's like a conflict between who Cyril is kind of addressing? I feel like on one side he's like talking to white people, like he's really not even just talking to, but he's like.
But
really
also,
trying to
I think we must also be like honest to ourselves as a country, because there are white people here. Right? You can't, and also we're part of the global community, right? Yeah. Whatever that we do here politically is gonna have negative effect. So is that you can't. We can't think we don't exist in isolation.
The clear thing, I love what he's saying, because he's suggesting that's why I believe that this is going to do very well in the election, because of who Cyril represents. Because the idea also of the ANC is moving beyond we're a black organization, we're chanting for black interests. It's an organization that realizes the historical imbalances of the past and how do we move. Even it says in the camp, how do we move South Africa forward? All of us together. And to move South Africa forward, we need everyone. It doesn't need black people, it needs black people, Indian, colored. How do we come together and solve those solutions? Hence, if you look at his campaign for the people that he's been targeting, he's speaking to a diverse bunch of people. People in 1994, they thought when ANC is coming to power, it's going to kill off or white people and chase away the people who are already in the union buildings in the administrative level. And I was like, no.
Do you think there'll ever be a white party in power, or a white president in power?
Maybe in like 80 years' time.
No, I think it's possible, and the only party that can only deliver a white president would be the ANC.
Like a white candidate under the ANC.
Yeah, because there's a lot of white people.
Even Chinese.
The ANC is a broad church. The membership is broad. If you look at the minister composition. Yeah. So it's depending on what happens in the national conference, who emerges in the thing. It's like it's possible.
I'll be sorry.
You think DA could ever win? Me honestly, I don't think they'd ever win.
Yeah,
I don't think they'd ever win.
Honestly, some of their.
I honestly don't think they'd win.
I feel like they're really just an oppositional party. They're not a party. Do you know what I mean? Their whole role is to go against the ANC and the EFF. Like, what I was saying is some of the posters that you see, some of the DA posters, keep the lights on. Vote. I'm like, how are we gonna keep the lights on, guys? Jobs are corrupt. Come on, professional police. Yeah. And what's that? The ones.
There are no policies.
I've
never heard anything.
A policy position. It's like the whole backing in the previous election, they were like on Zuma's case. And now,
EFF.
And now they remove Zuma.
They're agenda based.
And now they don't know what to do. Like
what do they do with Cyril? Because Cyril is pretty much like wooing business, big business. You know what I mean? So it's like
I don't know. They're just waiting for something to attack, because they don't speak like. If you look at ANC, it never speaks bad about any party. It says no, don't vote for these guys because. Like it speaks on this is what we do.
Well, I think they speak badly about EFF though.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, do you guys think because Julius was saying that Cyril actually propositioned some of the members of the EFF to come into government, like he was offering them deputy minister positions under the ANC government, and they were like, no, we're not gonna, not under the ANC government. So what do you think about that? Do you think we should have like where we vote for like the president no matter what party he's part of, so like disconnected from his party, and then we vote for like ministers disconnected from their parties as well?
No.
Yes. I think so, because I feel that that's actual democracy. I feel that if I vote, for example, in the US, they voted, and what did the electoral college do? It did not take the votes that the person that was favored by the public, they actually made their own decisions for the people. I want to make the decision. Basically, if I want a president, I would like to choose him for myself, because then
rather than choosing the actual party.
Yes, because then I'm using my right to vote. I feel like that's the best way I can say I voted. I chose someone. I played a part in this. If I'm basically voting for the ANC, yes, I played a part in with them having majority seats in parliament or whatever. but did I vote for the person I wanted? No. Can they reshuffle the ministers? For example, if I voted for the Minister of International Relations and I like who she is, and it's a female, and then they say, no, we're going to reshuffle or put a male in that position. Do you understand? I have no power, basically. So is that really democracy? Isn't that an autocratic system?
What do you think, Becky?
I think I beg to differ with her because, I mean, like, for me, it's very important that we exist in structures, right? Structures are very important, and also, you know, we must be represented, you know, like this is my party and this is our, you know, ideas around democracy, and also the very same democracy allows people to have, you know, their own, you know, freedom of association, right? Like, so for me, I think that's the, you know, like the best, you know, structure, especially our democracy, like one of the best. You know, I think, I don't think the Americans.
Okay.
You know, like for us, we are like the
what
best.
makes our why? What makes our democracy good, even one of the best?
Because the American democracy gave them Trump, their system. We laugh about it, but
people would say our democracy gave us what?
But she even said it. They voted for someone else.
Yeah.
But if for example, in the case that if people are against Jacob Zuma, if you had that system, Jacob Zuma would be still president if the system was still in place. So unlike a system where you can, like right now, no one can recall Trump until he ends his term. So
you have to account to the party.
He's accountable to no one. He's accountable to himself. He can wake up tomorrow. An organization can say we're going this way. He can wake up tomorrow and say, you know what? As a country, I want to sell off this province. He can do that because it's very dangerous for one person who's accountable to no one. He's not accountable to an organization.
But I don't know how much power, you know, a president really has. Do you know what I mean? Like, for example, Trump in comparison to African presidents, because our systems run so differently. You know, like when for African presidents, they say African presidents are presidents for hire, basically, to the highest bidder. It's the Guptas, if it's the, who are these people, the Rockefellers, you know. I mean, even for de Klerk to say, hey, I'm standing behind Cyril. I'm like, I don't think we want you to stand behind Cyril. I mean, I think that says a lot, you know. Yeah. Do you think we could ever have a woman president?
Of course.
Yeah.
We should have already.
In how many years' time?
We should have
It's probably more likely than having a white president.
Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
We'll have a woman president. It's obvious.
Yeah.
Very soon.
But I feel like
maybe after
I feel
seven,
like
I think.
it's still the structures of these parties are still very patriarchal.
Yeah,
I'm
ANC
sorry.
is honestly
and EFF is very, very
I
patriarchal.
feel like EFF tries though. Like they try.
No, they don't, in the sense that in the NEC, how many women do they have in the NEC as females?
Okay,
so,
I don't know.
The thing is...
But it's also about the way that they treat women. I mean, honestly, ANC Women's League, like, I don't feel like, and with this last election, they don't show up for other women. I'm like, you guys really seem like you're not interested in moving women forward.
But it's progressive for the fact that it's an organization that saw the need to have a women's league.
No, but
so it's progressive in that sense. For it acknowledges.
But is that the best?
It acknowledges, unlike any other, there's no DA women's league, there's no EFF women's league, a party that dedicates itself that, okay, as an organization, we're going to open up another union, because they didn't have to do that.
But what is the point of having a women's league that is pushing patriarchal genders?
Hey.
What is the point? Because then they're just faces, and they're just basically they're fulfilling a, what do they call it? They're fulfilling, I forgot what it's called. Basically, let's say they say they need a certain amount of women.
The quota.
Thank you. They are fulfilling the quota by saying we have the amount of women that we need as a party. That's it.
No, not really. Because if you look at the whole issue of patriarchy, it's a global thing. So it's unfair to task an organization to deliver, to solve patriarchy on its own.
We're not asking them to solve patriarchy. We're saying can we?
Because when is America going to have a women's president? When is London going to have? When's the UK going to have a female?
They had. Theresa May was still.
Like when are other countries going to also be? So now it's South Africa that must first put under this.
We're not. Okay, let's close the conversation here. Guys, thank you so much for participating in this conversation. It's been great. Cool. Thank you. Hi guys, thanks so much for watching this episode. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to like, comment, and hit that subscribe button. We'll catch you in the next one.